Hi everyone, James Paddock here, and today I'm going to talk to you about Heartland. Anyone who is familiar with the body of work of Paul deBruyne, aka Skillsaw, knows full well that he's nothing short of a mapping powerhouse. The man already has a multitude of community accolades under his belt for his monumental releases. His set Valiant rightfully won a CAC award in 2015 with its unique thematic settings, monolithically imposing architecture, and nail-biting combat that ceases to be tiresome all throughout its 32-map runtime. These things made it one of the standout releases of the year, and to this day it's heralded as a shining example of how Doom mapping is done. Not content with this, however, Skillsaw rapidly followed up this staggering release with Ancient Aliens in 2016. This mega WAD, to me, is one of the most marvellous releases for Doom in multiple respects. From the very first map, you're flung, quite literally, into a ferociously monster-populated but beautifully vibrant universe comprising ancient overgrown temples, alien spaceships, and strange extraterrestrial planets. Providing the full soundtrack for Ancient Aliens is none other than Stuart Rinn, aka STUBoy. I have to use the word sublime to properly describe STUBoy's compositions. His extensive body of work and ability to invoke spellbinding and themic sounds out of the humble General MIDI soundbank prove he is a musical virtuoso in every sense of the word, and we'll be getting into his work a little later on in this video. Heartland, meanwhile, a 2021 release by Skillsaw and returning composer STUBoy, is a series of 7 maps for Doom 2, set in the decaying industrial heartland of America. It makes notable use of the OTEX texture resource pack by Yukiro, of Eternity fame, and runs exclusively on the Eternity engine source port. It uses the universal Doom map format for the levels themselves, allowing for diverse scripted sequences, virtually limitless architectural possibilities, and extensive use of Eternity's rich and varied feature set, chiefly its impressively robust portal system and its EDF programming language for the custom assets. Speaking of, there's a flurry of new content present in Heartland, a host of brand new enemies on top of the default roster, and of particular note is a considerably upgraded arsenal of weapons. These additions are courtesy of modding master craftsman Zazer, who seems to be sinking his teeth into not just modding for Eternity, but also contributing to its codebase directly. He and Eternity engine developer Altazimuth worked closely with Skillsaw in a joint effort to help Heartland's ambitious maps make best use of the port's feature set, and vice versa, diving deep into the code to address bug reports and missing features per Skillsaw's wishes. Most of the stock weapons have had noticeable upgrades in the animation quality department, making them feel super smooth. There's also a handful of new weapons to have fun with. The chainsaw, chain gun, plasma rifle, and BFG have seen outright replacements. These new additions complement Skillsaw's combat scenarios beautifully, and are carefully and evenly spaced out throughout the campaign of Heartland, providing not just extra gameplay polish, but a sense of escalation as the levels become ever more exciting in look, frantic in combat, and daunting in scale. Heartland has you fighting for your life in sprawling construction sites, taking leaps of faith down huge industrial shafts, wading through flooded dig sites, and eventually disappearing into a strange underworld beneath the factory to deal with an untold evil. It might only be 7 maps long, but there is lots to take in here, and the overall playtime for the set will generally extend to a good few hours. These maps are monolithic, not just in terms of horizontal play space, but on the vertical axis as well, as Skillsaw has taken Eternity Engine's portal stacking technology to previously untouched extremes. Every map has multiple elevations that you'll constantly find yourself running between, and while looking at the automap to see all the stacked floors overlapping one another can be a trifle disorienting, the flow of the maps is extremely well done, offering some of the most interesting and dynamic gameplay you could ask for. I found myself engrossed once I'd started and got lost only due to my own lack of perceptiveness. Rest assured, this is a map set that doesn't hold back and demands a lot of patience and perseverance for its sprawling design and often unforgiving combat, but I imagine any player can warm to it very easily given half a chance. I'll now go into specific detail about what the 7 maps found in Heartland have to offer. There's a lot of ground to cover, some of it's seriously intense stuff that really has to be witnessed firsthand to be believed, so as always, there will be spoilers ahead. Level 1, Subway Sandwich. This map wastes a grand total of 0 seconds before it blows your mind. You start out on an underground train that actually moves, by God, while a gang of zombies take potshots at you from a neighbouring train. Shoot through the glass to shatter it and stunlock them before their train overtakes yours as you pull into the station. It cannot be understated that moving geometry in Doom, even in 2021, is an incredible rarity, and it's pulled off with such class here. Once you've grabbed a second pistol and made your way to the surface, be prepared for an entourage of monsters to greet you there, many of them shotgunners whom you'll have to carefully pick off from a distance. Here you'll be given the first new weapon, the Fire Axe, a hefty melee weapon that's suited for taking down pinkies and even some of the tougher enemies you'll face. You'll also run into the orange armor vest here, which grants you 50 armor points but will protect against a good half of damage you take, making it a more temporary variant of mega armor. These bloodied handprints hint at a secret where you can grab a mega pack, effectively half of a soul sphere. These things boost your health by 50% and can push you above full health. Dotted around this map are a plethora of industrial shipping containers and abandoned trucks that usually contain helpful items, although in some cases they may contain an ambush. Accompanying the hectic action of Heartland's first level is Street Surfer by STUART, a bombastic, funky track that gets us right into the spirit of things. Head down the sewer pipe and be ready for the Catharsis, imp-like creatures that throw fireballs at you and drop deadly time bombs when killed. A secret in this underground passage gets you to this optional and rather quaint petrol station, but be prepared for some nasty opposition going into it. Once you pick up the rocket launcher and expose the blue key, get ready for a highly explosive firefight, including a horde of revenants and mancubi, plus a roaming archvile. A tight fight featuring a baron and another archvile greets you below this office building, but provided you use your weapons wisely, this encounter isn't a massive hassle. After you've grabbed the 2 keys, head into the subway again and be prepared for the suicide squad. Let these zombies get too close and they'll detonate in your face, so pick them off from afar and try to let them deal residual damage to their cohorts. Ride the last train out of here, and you're on your way to... Level 2, Bruce R. & Son Construction Company. While it appears densely populated, this map has by far the lowest monster count in the whole set. Rocket zombies make their first appearance here, although they're not really a threat unless you effectively let them fire. Send them packing as soon as you can, all the same. Here you'll pick up a submachine gun, which acts as a pleasingly rapid-fire replacement for the chain gun. Grabbing it, you'll find yourself sandwiched by rocket troopers and kamikaze zombies, so pick them off carefully. Once you're past the red door and up the shaft, make sure to check below for a mega pack lying idly in a conveniently placed dumpster. Zombies of all varieties are here to harangue you all throughout your ascent as you make your way to the top of this spire of scaffolding. Reunite with your super shotgun and be prepared for the Cybruisers lurking at the top. You may remember these rocket-launching Hell Nobles from Valiant. There's then a duo of archviles to take care of at the peak of the structure, then you can head down with the blue key in tow. Have your SSG primed before you take the shaft back down to ground level, as you'll need to immediately take care of the zombie bomb squad waiting for you. STUART has scored a groovalicious tune full of ducking and diving guitar melodies and keyboard lines to coincide with the up and down vertical action you'll experience going through this level, in the form of the Jazz Machine. Level 3, Reservoir Dog. Heartland ramps up the sense of danger with this level, taking place in a towering tech base set deep in a polluted canyon. This might be the most intensely vertical Doom map going at the moment, as it requires you to think precisely about where you're heading in the upward and downward directions as much as any other. The hazards you'll face won't come from any incidental environmental damage here, instead they'll come from the over-numerous hordes of monsters and the myriad vantage points they have over you. As the water progressively lowers further, more areas of the facility will become available, and more intense waves of monsters will flood in, totally transforming the layout of the level and the way things play out. In the bigger fights, there are few areas in this map that are absolutely safe, but ammo and health are in ample supply for the most part. STUART's Dancing Snakes provides a pleasing backdrop of playful percussion and pizzicato strings, and gritty guitars with a bouncing, hypnotic rhythm. After getting the red key and draining the canyon the first of 2 times, you'll stumble on the second submachine gun. When dual-wielded, these guns are insanely effective at stun-locking and extremely satisfying to use, but predictably they absolutely rip through your bullet ammo. The latest enemy in Heartland's custom roster here is the Grell, a floating tumorous monster with a fairly weak projectile attack and a low enough health pool to go down in a single SSG shot. Rarely a threat, but often coming in hordes you'll have to thin out with powerful weaponry before they become a nuisance. There's a couple of very useful optional areas. At the southeast, there's a megasphere cave you can drop down to from the top floor, and a megapack sequestered away in front of a waterfall to the north. The tower to the northeast will lower the sludge once again, but don't panic like I did when the ceiling suddenly starts raining time bombs on you. It's fine! It's fine! A blazing firefight in the rocky basin will then take place, demanding the utmost nimbleness and ammo usage to overcome. Time your use of the kindly provided megasphere and megapack well, and keep a keen ear out for the incessant screaming of the suicide bombers. After you get the yellow key at the top of the southwest tower, be prepared for a trio of Bruisers, followed by a swarm of Grells and Cacodemons, and an agitation of Revenants. After that, negotiate these earthy tightropes to the exit. Level 4, Routine Flaring and Flailing. Another multi-tiered tech base set in a rocky valley with plenty of choke points that can really get the best of you if you're not going in with a diligent eye. Of particular egregiousness are the rocket zombies, who have the tendency to rain death on you from far above. After getting the blue key, be prepared for another wailing horde of zombie bombers to descend on you, with the Bruiser brothers leading the charge. Fix yourself a berserk after this and go to town on the lower tier enemies roaming the area. Beyond the blue door are a plethora of zombie fodder, but mind the spectres, who have particular advantage in the dark recesses of this map. The storage area might give you the most grief, as it allows for monsters to get the drop on you from around a bunch of different dark corners, as well as from above, continuing the trend of Heartland's sense of verticality being something to both respect and fear. Stewboy's See the Shrews is a delightfully upbeat waltz that counterpoints the morbid violence of blasting through this rundown urban industrial complex with a sense of undistilled joy and tranquility. More suicide bombers and Bruisers await you in this rocky pocket after you grab the Soul Sphere, and then 4 more of the buggers might surprise you as you go for the red key in this container. Past that, a throng of chain gunners and their Archvile Guardian protect the yellow key, but you can more or less mindlessly mow them down with suppressive submachine gun fire. Another tuplet of Bruisers might then give you a bit of trouble on the final bridge if you're not also prepared for the ambush that appears behind you. It's a good solid level with all the usual Skillsaw hallmarks, although, honestly, routine does about cover it, as there's not much in the way of surprises here. But don't worry, Skillsaw makes up for that almost immediately, moving forward to Level 5, Titan of Industry. Something lurks here in the outskirts. An ancient presence, older than the Heartland that birthed it. They found it here, deep beneath the factory grounds. It thrums with perfect, eternal cadence, sounding your name. Titan of Industry is one of the first truly dumbfounding maps in Heartland. It's a leviathan of interweaving stairwells, catwalks and elevator shafts that is so impossibly well knitted together I can only imagine Skillsaw had to sacrifice a goat or two to Eternity's portal system to get it to work. As you work your way through the winding alleyways and the steel-reinforced guts of this industrial juggernaut, there are well over 600 enemies to take down, and while most of them are zombie fodder, as is custom with Skillsaw maps of this particular magnitude, there's no shortage of seriously intense scrambles for survival with some of the more brutish opposition you can face in Doom. Something about this map instills an immense sense of dread and smallness in the player, and the automaton-like relentlessness of Stewboy's grungy but groovy post-rock MIDI, the towering colliery, is honestly the icing on top. It's replete with incessant drones and chirps of unseen machinery, its distant background sounds setting the stage superbly well. This level makes Skillsaw's love for show-stopping combat set-pieces abundantly clear. This giant hangar-like room is the first truly awe-inspiring moment, as once you hit the switch at the end of it, you'll suddenly realise, oh, that big scaffolding thing moves. Make your way through the surrounding hallways, repositioning the catwalks as you go, until you reach the top and unleash the zombie wall of death. It's hilarious destructive fun. I wonder what this button does. Oh my god! Here you'll happen upon a brand new weapon. Heartland substitutes the plasma rifle for a flamethrower instead. A pretty straightforward replacement, but make no mistake, this weapon absolutely melts anything you can hose with it, so use its ammo wisely, and be aware of the space around you as you fire it, as it's all too easy to flambe yourself with it. It's hard to find any faults with the gameplay of this map, which sure is something given the scale of it. The fights are frantic and complement their respective spaces very well, even the meaner encounters where space is deliberately and drastically limited, and finding your way around this labyrinthine superstructure is surprisingly easy, as the path between key and door is extremely straightforward. Nothing but admiration for the dynamic duo of Skillsaw and Stewboy here. Astounding stuff. Level 6, Get Shafted. Once again, the immensity of this level, set in a giant mining shaft, can be overwhelming at first. There are well over 1,000 enemies on this map, but Skillsaw has perfected the art of the adventure-style slugfest map. While there are no encounters that can be classed as outright slaughter, per se, the individual fights monster counts are all justifiably high by way of the ample space provided to you and the near limitless resources you have to blaze through everything this map tries to throw at you. Many of the enemies here are in fact low tier monsters like zombies, imps and catharsi, who can all be dealt with swiftly, although the more challenging set pieces will have you juggling your weapons for dear life. STUART knocks it out of the park again with his heart-pounding masterstroke of a MIDI, Parabellum, which goes no small way to prepare you for all-out war. After grabbing the red key, you'll head to the upper catwalks, whereupon the cyber demon will immediately punish you for existing. Get him to infight as soon as possible, then head down to the elevator shafts to head down into the underground. There's a brilliantly tense and bloody encounter on this railcar ride, where multitudes of monsters will ambush you from both sides, and the carnage doesn't relent once you're off either. Beyond the blue door, you'll be introduced to perhaps the most satisfying BFG replacement that's been done in a while, the cluster bomb launcher. Stand well back when you fire this baby, as the clusters are easily as powerful as individual rockets by themselves, and using this weapon in close quarters is absolutely guaranteed self-immolation. It's exceptionally useful at crowd control, but since each single shot guzzles 5 rockets at once, it must be used in careful moderation before you exhaust your rocket supply completely. Trust me, you'll still want to fall back on the plain old rocket launcher in many future cases. The final arena is a colossal blood basin that will unleash hundreds of enemies on you, but it's less of a climactic struggle for survival and more an insane power trip. Skillsaw gives you all the rockets you could ever want for in the world, so it's very much a case of unapologetically going to town on your opposition with your cluster bombs. Even the cyber demons become laughably ineffectual in this fight. Drop down into the bloody waterfall to exit, and hit the switch to venture into what lies deep beneath. Level 7. The Beating Heart. The final level, taking place in a vast subterranean demonic fortress of marble and stone, is a series of utterly relentless encounters that demand you to have quick reflexes to dodge the onslaught of enemies and scavenge what supplies you can. Going into this level, you'll be effectively locked off from the entire map until you manually relinquish each one of your weapons, even your backpack, before having them ceremoniously destroyed in front of you. Luckily, the arena you get thrown into first is kind enough to offer you a fire axe, and a berserk. It should be known that this combination is amazingly effective even against mid-tier enemies like Hell Knights and Mancubi, so hack and slash your way through this fight and then start reclaiming your weaponry. You'll find your shotgun and rocket launcher first, but your super shotgun, submachine guns and cluster bomb launcher are all unreachable until you find the respective coloured skull key. The road to each key is a series of gauntlets where your ability to use your weapons wisely will be tested multiple times, and in many of these fights the space will be greatly limited, so use of the cluster bomb launcher will be largely inadvisable. Simply put, be ready for an ambush around every turn and don't lose your cool. Accompanying the pulse-pounding pace of this level is perhaps STUART's most involved and impressive track yet, which is no small statement. An 8-minute opus of intense percussion-centric, classical-inspired symphonic MIDI, topped up with a flurry of strings, soaring choirs and blazing woodwinds. Feast your ears on Soul's Symphony. Climb this staircase and you'll start hearing the incessant drumming of the sentient heart that keeps vigil over this wretched place. Give it a good seeing to with one of your weapons to put the fear of God in it, then be prepared for the final battle as it unleashes a full-on retaliative assault of monsters. The heart watches you from the very top of this arena, mockingly summoning wave after wave of high-level demons to keep you busy. Unloading enough ammo into the beast while it's exposed will cause it to retreat and summon another wave, so time your shots against it well and make diligent use of the ample health pickups so as not to get overwhelmed. You will eventually triumph once you've pumped enough rockets into it, at which point you'll have laid this sleeping evil to permanent rest. That concludes my in-depth look at the levels, and I'll close the overview by saying that Heartland is a must-play for anyone who is remotely interested in Doom. It absolutely shatters the notion of Doom's 2.5D engine being unworkably limiting, and sings the praises of the Eternity engine from the mountaintops. Skillsaw drives home that this is a source port not to be scoffed at, as the work he and Team Eternity have done here easily rivals any large production style GZ Doom map set. Each level here has at least one jaw-dropping vista or fiendishly clever set piece or some incredibly dynamic combat situation that simply hasn't been done before. Its groundbreaking application of an underloved sourceport's features has gone no small way to putting Eternity Engine in the limelight. You might view Heartland as Eternity's killer app. I don't doubt we'll be seeing the port getting a great deal more attention now that Skillsaw has shown beyond any shadow of a doubt what it's capable of. Heartland is also just a shining example of how Doom's community is still going strong today, and how 27 years down the line, we're still getting astonishing content made for it. I hope I provided an informative overview of what Heartland is. As usual, a link to play it is in the video description, and while you're at it, go show the incomparable Stuart RYNN'S some love by purchasing his soundtrack to this incredible set, which he has available on his Bandcamp. That's all for now. Go play Heartland. See you next time. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like my work and want to throw me some support, please consider visiting my website, jamespaddockmusic.com, or joining my Patreon. Patreon backers get an early look at videos like this one, plus access to my private Discord, discounts on commission rates, and sneak peeks at exclusive content. That's everything for now, cheers!